we want to do this without melting our own party as seen here. Today we're talking about the Wizard subclass Evoker, and it's incredibly powerful, whether you be a new player or a veteran one. It allows your allies to automatically pass saving throws against evocation spells when you cast them. Be aware, this subclass only affects the evocation spells, and you'll still be susceptible to spells of other schools, as seen here. There are a variety of other powerful wizard subclasses, however, they leave your party vulnerable to things like this. Being an evoker just really opens up the flexibility and allows you to spend some incredibly powerful nukes into the enemy's way or into choke points and so forth. So let's go ahead and get started with the build. For today's video, we'll be respecting Gale, who naturally starts as an Evoker Wizard and is also a human. Now for your race choice, you could choose whichever race you like. I actually think that Dragonborn is very strong. This will give you access to a scaling breath attack as you level up and is a nice fit for this build overall. Now for cantrips and spells, there's an enormous amount and we can't cover them all in this video. However, I'll talk about the ones that I've selected so that you know why these are good choices and you can browse the spells yourself and see if some of these things apply to them and are a good fit for you or your party. For the cantrips to start, I like Firebolt. This is just going to give you a spell option that's free of charge, so to speak. You'll be able to cast this every turn without using a spell charge, and you won't have to worry on your strength or dex in order to land attacks if an enemy gets near. Mage Hand. This is very useful in my opinion. A lot of people neglect this spell. Allows you to interact with objects, send this hand out into different areas, and interact with objects that you might not be able to reach without receiving damage or other various effects. Ray of Frost, this just fits my party very well. My party lacks the ability to snare targets, so it's nice to have a cantrip option from this for my wizard, allowing me to spam this on multiple targets, reducing the range, and then let some of my ranged units kind of deal damage to them and take them out. For spells, Witch Bolt is actually very powerful. This is a level 1 spell slot. You'll cast it and it will link you with that target. And then every turn thereafter, you can do additional damage, allowing you to essentially deal spell damage to the target repeatedly turn after turn. However, there are a lot of other options like I mentioned, so if any of these choices don't work for you, feel free to swap them up. Ice Knife is a level 1 AoE spell. Now this is a conjuration spell, so even after you hit level 2, your party will take damage from this or be susceptible to the chill surface that is left. So make sure that you're casting this safely. However, having early access to an AoE spell is incredibly useful. Like I said, ideally with an Evoker Wizard, a lot of your combat strategy is going to evolve around positioning the enemy into choke points where you can then nuke spells at them safely. Ice Knife is nice to create zoning areas or just slow the enemy down and kind of work everything where you would like them. Expeditious Retreat as well as Long Strider I like for the same reason basically. This is going to increase a creature's movement speed by 3 meters until long rest, so you can cast this and it will persist until you rest again. Same with Expeditious Retreat. Now this is going to transform your dash and make it a bonus action each turn, allowing a character to then dash around every single turn that it's active for them, just adding a ton of mobility to the character, and this is a character that you want to keep out of harm's way. Shield. This is a reaction spell and very powerful. A lot of people don't like this spell for whatever reason, but the fact that you can choose to use this as a reaction is what makes this powerful. If your character is susceptible to being knocked unconscious, this can potentially save you. Thunderwave, this is an evocation spell, so when you hit level 2, you won't have to worry about doing any sort of rhetorical action or damage to your party, and the amount of damage you can do from falling damage in this game is enormous. You can turn the tides of a fight extremely easy just by knocking enemies off, putting them out of position, or potentially even killing them outright. Now, for abilities, as always, this is a little bit flexible. This is my preferred setup at level 1, and we're going to put essentially 14 into Dex, 16 into Con, 16 into Intellect, and it doesn't matter where you have the bonuses as long as you come out with these numbers. You could certainly take some points out of Constitution if you want to bump your Charisma up and have your stats in a place where you don't receive any negatives. And another option here is you could actually remove the points from Con, assign your bonus into Dexterity, and go with this setup as well, adding some additional armor class. Whether you want to have the ability to be hit less often or soak more damage is totally up to you. For proficiencies, I typically don't have many intellect characters in my party. In fact, I usually only have 1 and sometimes 0. So it's nice to put the proficiencies into 3 intellect skills, just giving my party some diversity and the option to kind of pass these skill checks successfully. And this is most likely the case for a lot of people. Unless you're playing a complete spellcaster-oriented party, you'll probably be looking to fit an intellect user into your party, especially since they start off relatively weak and grow stronger as the game goes on. You might be watching this guide in order to implement your first intellect character. At level 2, you'll want to pick up the Evocation subclass. As mentioned in the intro of this video, this is what's going to allow you to use these evocation spells without damaging your own party. And for spells, I pick up Magic Missile here as well as Burning Hands. Now Burning Hands I typically don't even have as one of my prepared spells. Even though we are going to utilize choke points, I still find the Ice Knife more beneficial in terms of overall success for the party. However, it is nice to have Magic Missile, which I can use as a nuke to target various targets to pick them off as my character gets higher level and casts more, or you can focus them all on one target. These always hit, so this is just a guaranteed source of damage, and there's very few ways to guarantee damage in this game, so this is incredibly nice. At this point for the prepared spells, still use Thunderwave, Witch Bolt, Ice Knife, Expeditious Retreat, and Magic Missile. At this point I've swapped off Longstrider because as other classes level up, they typically get their own tools for mobility and so forth, so this starts to lose some value. At level 3, all we're going to gain is a couple of spells, so we'll go ahead and take a look. I'm going to take Cloud of Daggers. This is a fantastic AoE spell. Again, this is a conjuration spell, so be careful of the positioning. An incredibly useful zoning tool as well. You can cast this in order to create your own choke points, or if an enemy is foolish enough to go through it, they take a large amount of damage from this. Hold Person can definitely be incredibly powerful as well. Just takes the right situation. This can only hold a humanoid enemy, so typically this is something that you'll prepare if you know that this is going to be beneficial in the encounter coming up. Otherwise, as you'll see here, I typically don't have it readily prepared. This will leave us with Thunderwave, Cloud of Daggers, Ice Knife, Expeditious Retreat, Magic Missile, and Shield for now. Level 4 is a fairly large power spike for us. We're going to gain a cantrip, 2 spells, as well as a feat. For the cantrip, I like to select Blade Ward at this point. Our offensive capabilities are definitely growing, and we're getting pretty powerful in that regard. So it's nice to have an option, especially that doesn't use a spell slot, that allows us to give something defensive to our character in case we don't have line of sight on any enemy targets. For spells, pick up Misty Step as well as Chromatic Orb. Misty Step is going to allow us to just teleport to an unoccupied space, and we'll change what spells we have prepared because of this. Chromatic Orb is an evocation spell, so again we're going to start utilizing this to basically throw it into our party or the melee range and so forth and just nuke everything down without our party receiving damage. And as mentioned, as for preparing spells at this point, we'll keep Thunderwave just because knocking enemies off is so powerful in this game. Cloud of Daggers for its zoning potential as well as high damage. Ice Knife for its ability to leave the ice surface as well as AoE damage. Chromatic Orb because it's an evocation AoE. Magic Missile for its ability to guarantee a hit. Shield for its reaction ability and defensive properties. The final slot here should be Misty Step. Please excuse the visual error in the video. And again, Misty Step is just for mobility for your character. Now for the ability improvement, because we only went 16 in Intellect at level 1, we're going to take the ability improvement feat, and then we're going to dump both points into Intellect, giving us, again, a rather large power spike overall in this level. Level 5 is again a large power spike, and wizards just continue to get stronger and stronger. Now at this point we're going to take Fireball. It does massive damage. It's an evocation spell, allowing us to just throw this wherever we want without any real regard. We're also going to pick up Haste, and this is going to allow a target, whether it's ourself or an ally, to gain an extra action, become faster and harder to hit, and on top of that it lasts for an incredible 10 turns. This is so powerful, I can't say it enough. It can completely change the tides of battle, regardless of how difficult the battle might be without it. Going into prepared spells, we're going to stick with Thunderwave, Cloud of Daggers, Ice Knife, Chromatic Orb, Magic Missile, Shield, Haste, Longstrider, Fireball. At this point, I find Hold Person less valuable. Longstrider, actually, I don't know how that got back in there. Forgive me, this should actually be Misty Step. And in general, you see there's an enormous amount of spells. Tons of options for spells. You're not limited to the spells that I've shown you in this video in any way whatsoever. Feel free to change these up and use whatever is most useful for you. But overall, Wizard will only continue to get stronger and stronger as the game goes on and as you level up more. As always, thanks for taking the time to watch, and have a great day.